Come on, where's the thread at? Oh, Jesus. I'm not sure why these don't fit in 1/2-inch thread for conduit. I really wanted to use this elbow right here so I can come out of the FlexBOSS21 and right into the Midnite Solar surge suppressor, but it doesn't fit. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another average video. All right, this is going to be video 2 of the surge suppression installation videos. First video, just as a quick reminder if you didn't see it, basically we installed the EMP Shield in my main electrical panel, and it was super easy. Today's video, we are going to tackle all the surge suppression for like my solar panel arrays. You're not necessarily protecting the solar arrays, you're protecting the charge controllers on your inverters, or just if you have a separate charge controller, you're protecting that. And I think I need to clarify something from the last video. Is it might have sounded like I said that you can take a direct lightning strike with these. That is incorrect, and it's probably what it sounded like, and that's not what I was intending on saying. Is if you do manage to get a direct lightning strike, I don't think any of the surge suppressing units would survive, and you'll probably have damage to, charge controllers, inverters, and all of that kind of stuff because it's lightning. I mean, it can jump gaps, and all that kind of stuff. What we're trying to prevent with the surge suppressors is kind of like surges from lightning strikes that are nearby. All of your wires from your solar panel arrays, from the grid, all the wiring that you have basically are like little antennas. And what'll happen is all of the wiring will basically pick up transients from that lightning strike. It's kind of like just a little blast of electricity, and all of your antennae will pick that up and then send a little blast of energy down your wiring and potentially, ruining your equipment. So these surge suppressors basically will take that energy and direct it to ground. This isn't like lightning protection, it is surge protection, okay? There is a difference there. And I don't think I clarified that enough in the first video, and somebody else might have mentioned that. If you're doing like real lightning protection, that's a completely different animal, and you have like lightning rods on top of your house and like copper wire going down the roof and all that kind of stuff, and then down into ground. Basically, lightning will hit that rod and divert it around your house type of thing. That is a completely different animal than surge suppression. So anyway, I figured I would clarify that real quick, and now we can move on. So again, we are going to be adding the Midnite Solar surge protection on my FlexBOSS21 inverter. It has 3 charge controllers on it, so we are going to be installing 3 of these. Now, one other thing that you can do with these is add another one at your solar panel array, especially if it's kind of far away, whether it's on the roof or on the ground. A lot of people will put one of these out at the array and at the charge controller or inverter, the charge controllers on the inverter. So I did buy 6 of these bad boys right here. 3 of these are going to go on the FlexBOSS21, and then one of these we might put out by the array outside. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to do that quite yet. And then the other 2 are either spares, just in case I do get a surge and I have to replace one, or if I add another solar panel array, then I can add this to that, okay? So that is for all of my charge controllers on the inverter. And also in the last video I mentioned it's probably a good idea to protect your batteries, at least your lithium batteries, because they have electronics inside, the BMS and all the other crap that goes into lithium batteries. And I said I was going to be using the EMP Shield, mainly because Signature Solar, where I bought all these, didn't offer the battery sized one for Midnite Solar. I think you can get it directly from their website, but I was just trying to get everything from one place. That's it. So if Signature Solar carried the Midnite Solar version, of the 48 volt for your batteries or whatever battery size you're using, didn't offer it, so I got the EMP version. This is for 48 volt batteries, and yeah, it's only got one LED. It's got a positive, a negative, and a ground. And same thing for the Midnite Solar. These also have the positive, negative, and a ground. All of this is going to be pretty easy to connect up. But wait, there's more. In the last video, I also mentioned adding the ferrite rings on some of the system that you're trying to protect, and these are called broadband ferrites. These are type 31, I believe. You can get these off Amazon or you can get them from the EMP doctor. That's where I'm getting a good portion of the information, at least for the ferrite stuff. He recommends adding these on your solar panel wires and the wires that come in from the grid. There is two different versions. There is a broadband ferrite, and that's what this one is. You would set this on your solar panel wires out at the array, and then one more right at your inverter or charge controller. Okay, so we'll probably add these as well. And then finally, in the last video, I also mentioned adding ferrites to the wires that come in from the grid, or you could add them to the wires that feed your inverter or go out of your inverter, you know, your bigger cables. And these are high saturation ferrites. Again, I got these off of Amazon, or you can get them from the EMP doctor. Again, I don't think these are like 1000% needed. I'm just trying to protect as much of my system as I can. And that's pretty much it. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is install the surge protection on the inverters on the back of the FlexBOSS21. And I was trying to use these conduit elbows that have the threads in it. I don't know if it's going to show up in there. The threads. This is 1/2 inch because that's what I was assuming these threads are, but they are slightly different, and I can't just screw these in there because my original plan was just to go through the holes that are on the back of my FlexBOSS21. I'll show you here in just a second. I was just going to have these sticking out the back and, you know, just call it a day, which is fine, and I could still do that. But in order for me to see the LEDs, you know, that it is working or verify that it's working, I would have to look behind the inverter. It's easy to do, but, you know, I would have to like stick my head around the back of the inverter. So I decided to add an elbow in there so I can come out of the inverter and then basically drop down, and the LEDs would drop below the inverter and I would be able to see those. And then they didn't fit. So I did do a slight modification with some other 3/4 inch. I cut an 1.5 inch long piece of 3/4 conduit. I'm going into a 3/4 inch elbow. This one does not have threads. It's got the screws on here that you clamp down. And then of course the fitting that goes through the inverter. And the end result looks like this right here. It's the same thing that I was trying to do. I just had to use 3/4 inch conduit and a little bit different elbow setup. Okay, so I'm only adding all this just so it'll drop the surge protector below the inverter so I can visually see it. You don't have to do all this, but that's what I'm doing. The only thing I did have to change, I did have to add a longer screw right here so it would reach the threads and hold it in place. Okay, that's basically what I'm going to be doing. And then for the EMP shield for the battery bank, yeah, I haven't fully figured that one out yet. I have a rough plan and hope that it works. One last thing before we start drilling some holes is how am I going to connect my wires, you know, before it goes into the charge controller. So on the FlexBOSS21, and 18 kPV and maybe another inverter or two. In each PV slot, there's actually 2 hookups. So I could technically install the positive and negative on the second pairing, or the part where you would parallel another array end, and then add my ground to the, you know, the ground bar. I will probably do that on array 2 because I have an open slot. Array 3 doesn't have the extra slot. I bought a whole bunch of these, you know, the dual wire ferrules, or furls, however you want to pronounce it. But the plastic part up here won't fit in the hole, therefore this won't actually reach in there, you know, where it needs to go. So the next best thing that I could do is just use a regular furl. This is for 8 AWG wire, and I will just add in my wire, you know, from the surge suppressor along with the wires that come from the panel. You're not technically supposed to add 2 wires into a single, but that's what I'm going to do. And then for the EMP Shield, it's gonna be kind of the same type of deal. For my setup right now, there's not really a really good place to add this. I could probably just add it right to really any of the batteries over there and that would cover it, but the only thing for that is I don't have batteries close enough for the ground wire to reach that bus bar, and I really don't want to extend this if I don't have to. And then I'm going for my positive and negative wires. I'm going to attach those right to the terminals that go into the inverter. And again, I am going to be using some bigger ferrules, either this one or the ones that don't have the plastic on it. I'm going to shove my battery cable in there, and then I'm also going to shove the EMP Shield wire in there, and then both of those wires will be in there together. And then whenever I tighten down the bolt, it'll crush the outside and then crush both wires together. That's the best thing I can do right now. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so here is my FlexBOSS21, and basically my original plan, which you're not gonna be able to see very well unless I can get my camera back here, was to come out of that hole right there and just have the surge suppressors basically facing the wall back here. If I did do that again, I would have to basically stick my head right here and try to peek around the corner. Now when I add the elbow, it basically drops it down below here so I can visually see those LEDs. All right, so I did knock out that hole right there just to kind of verify everything was going to work. Once I did see that, I basically took that knockout and set it on these other 2 knockouts back here, and I kind of traced it just so I knew exactly where I was going to be drilling some holes. And then for the EMP Shield, there is a knockout right there that I'm going to knock out, and we're going to go through a 3/4 inch elbow, and we're going to be going through flexible conduit like this, but not the metal kind. We're going to kind of snake down a little bit, and then I'm going to mount the EMP Shield right to this unistrut right here. Okay, I guess the first thing is first, we need to shut off the solar. We're gonna make sure the solar arrays do not have any juice on them. So 3.5 volts, which is what we want for the roof array, 3.5 volts. And then for the ground array, 0 volts. Okay, so solar arrays are off. Next thing I gotta do is drill out these knockouts right here. And I'm not disconnecting or turning the power off. I'm gonna do this with the power going because, well, I need power at my house. But if it's for you, of course, I'm gonna suggest that you turn off your power. All right, so I'm gonna drill a couple small holes through the knockouts right here, and then I'm gonna try out one of these little knockout hole remover things. Lauren got me this for Christmas, and I haven't used it yet, so we're gonna try this out as well. I'm gonna be uber careful. These are data wires and ground wires back here, so there's nothing critical right back here. I'm gonna drill a small hole first if I can. And then over here, of course, these are my battery cables, and I'm just gonna be super careful. Now I need to drill a 1/2 inch hole in order for me to use this right here. That seems quite large, but that's what it recommends. This one over here, I have to be a little more careful. Okay, now I'm going to install this, and the cutter goes in the back. I don't have any wires underneath. Now we just have to tighten down this back bolt, and it should just cut right through it. Hopefully that is the correct size. It looks kind of small. I feel like I chose the wrong size, which I think I did. All right, it made a really nice hole. I just, for some reason, grabbed the wrong size. I actually need the next size up. But in order for me to do that, I need to drill like a 3/4 inch hole, which I don't really want to do and create even more chips. So I am gonna cut the small hole just so I have a bigger hole, and then we'll move on to the actual size that I need. So it's a little extra step that I'm doing, which is not really needed. But I'm gonna do it anyway. I am offsetting this center one a little bit higher than the other ones, and that's because they're so close together. There we go. All right, now on to the next size up. They do make hydraulic versions of this, which would be nice, but I don't have that one. Now that should fit in there perfectly, which it does. All right, perfect. There we go. Nice. All right, so next thing I'm gonna do is pop out one of the knockouts that are here in the back, and that's gonna be for the EMP Shield. All right, I'm gonna try to hit that one up into the inverter. There we go. And that is right back there. There we go, just popped it out. Boom, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna vacuum this one more time to make sure I got all the metal shards out. All right, now that we have all of our holes knocked out, we can start installing the Midnite Solar surge suppressors, and those are gonna be threaded in from the back. So I'm gonna take the jam nut off of here, and then I'm gonna go around on the back side, just like that, and we'll put our jam nut back on. All right, there we go. Got it coming through the knockout on the back. We go just a little bit lower, you can see it right there in the back. And if I take you around to this side, that's basically what we look like right here. I also forgot to mention I do have these little bushing covers, whatever you want to call them. I might as well put those on there as well. There we go, got all three surge suppressors through the knockout holes, and then if we look below, we'll easily be able to see the LED. Well, not super easy, but easier than looking behind the unit. We can actually see all three right back there. For the crimping, I'm going to be using one of these right here. It has the changeable jaws up here, and I'm just going to grab the ones that work with all of those furls. So these ones right here, slide those in place. Boom, just like that. And then of course for the furls, like I already said, I'm going to be using these red ones, which are an 8 AWG. Sucks that they're all red, but that's what we got. All right, so these are all the PV inputs for the FlexBOSS21 18 kPV. The FlexBOSS21, these first four right here are for array 1, the next four are array 2, and then the 2 all by itself are going to be array 3. Now, if you're not paralleling, you know, 2 sets of arrays, kind of like number 2 right here, I've got 2 open ports. I could technically just add my positive and negative into those right there because they are paralleled with this one right here, which I might actually do. For these ones over here, I'm just going to pick an array so I can basically parallel in the surge suppressor. So I'll probably just do these 2 right here, and that's going to be the same thing for array 3 right over here. And one thing they do tell you to do with surge suppressors like this is try to make your wires as short as you possibly can, and no sharp bends if you can avoid it. So I'm going to do array 1, array 2, and array 3. So we will start with array 3 right over here. So I'm just going to get like a rough wire length that's kind of nice and neat, and nothing too long or too short, and just go with that right here. Actually, for the ground, that one's actually going to go in a different spot, so I can just get that one out of the way. Probably just going to go with that length right here. Do a snip. We'll strip these back. All right, we're going to pop out the positive first. Okay, I'm going to cut that off. We'll take the 2 positives and we will combine those together. That way we get a nice good crimp on those. I'll slide the ferrule on as far back as I can go, and then we will give it a little smashy smash. Boom, just like that. And then I'm going to trim back that extra copper wire that's hanging out the back. Boom, just like that. And then we will put that one right back in where it connects right over here. There we go. Now we can do the same thing for the ground or negative. Give it a little twist. And then we will pop it right back into place. Boom. There we go. So for the ground, we're going to the ground bus bar right back here. So this one will be a lot shorter. And I'm going to try to make it nice and neat, if I can. All right, I've been using gray previously, so I'm going to use gray again. Crimp him down. Boom, there we go. So now we've got array 3 all done. I think for array 2, I think I am just going to put it in the parallel spot. So I'll bring these wires around to get my rough length. All right, I'm going to cut these right about here. Snip. Put our blue ferrule on these. Crimp. And this one will be super easy. As you can tell, we're just going to pop that right in there. Boom. Boom. Give them a little tug to make sure they don't come out. And then we will do the same thing with the ground wire. Probably going to bring you back here if I can without making too much of a sharp bend. Okay, I'm going to cut you right about here. Put it on our gray ferrule. A little smashy. Get him in there. Now we're on to the last one. It was going pretty quick. A little quicker than I thought it was going to go. We'll come in here, we'll get our rough length. Cut these off right here. Boom. Cut back the sheathing. I'm going to pop out these 2 over here, but we'll go ahead and do one at a time. Do I want to put you on this side? I feel like I do. We'll twist you guys together if we can. We'll slide on our ferrule. Boom, just like that. Pull out that negative. Follow that same path. Cut that off. Twist those up. Put on our ferrule. Boom, just like that. And you're gonna come up here, snip this one off right here, put on our gray ferrule, give that a little smashy, and we'll pop him right up in there. Boom. Okay, so now we got all 3 surge suppressors in. That really didn't take very long at all, maybe 15 or so minutes. This ground bar right over here is connected to the main ground that goes to the inverter, and this goes over to the grid boss, and then the grid boss goes outside to my ground rod. Okay, so that's where you want to hook up your ground, so it makes a quick and easy, nice path to ground outside. All right, next we're going to do the EMP shield for the battery bank, and since I'm going to be going on to the unistrut, I did grab some of these cone nuts right here. I grabbed the 1/4 inch ones, so I am going to have to modify the hole, basically drill it out just a little tiny bit to a 1/4 inch, and I'm only going to be doing basically the bottom 2 holes. Boom, and we're done. Okay, so we will go ahead and get this installed, and just like I said earlier, for this one I'm going to be using some of the flexible conduit going in through the bottom, and I'm actually going to leave these kind of long because I don't know if this spot is going to be permanent. The reason for that is I change these batteries quite often, and I move stuff around because I test a lot of batteries. So yeah, that might not be the permanent position, because once I get my DIY batteries set up, there is some bus bars in there, and that's probably where I will end up putting this later on. All right, so for these right here, I'm basically going to be going to this negative and this positive, which actually go over here and connect up to the Ethos battery. So what I'm going to do is pop off the side here and disconnect or flip the main breaker so this battery is shut down, just so I can pull those wires out so I can add the EMP Shield wires to those. Boom, just like that. Pop open this guy right here, which is the main breaker for all of these batteries over here. So now this battery bank is disconnected. All right, so for this part of the installation, I am going to be using 3/4 inch flexible conduit with this 90-degree angle right here, so we can come out of the inverter from this. And then we're going to make like a really tight S-curve so I can come down right down here to where the EMP shield is going to be. And if you're not aware, this stuff is pretty difficult to move around when it's cold, so I'm going to use a heat gun to warm this up to make it a little easier to bend into the position that I need. I would like to see if I could get a rough length. Yeah, it's going to be a real tight S-curve. I'm going to have to come down as sharp as I can and then come back and bend this way. So it might actually push the EMP shield all the way back to this one side, which is about as good as I'm going to get. Basically, I just don't want to drill more holes into my concrete block if I don't have to. That's mainly the reason why I'm putting this over here. And just FYI, these battery cables right over here, again, this is all temporary because it's going over to a bunch of batteries over there that are basically being tested. So this isn't permanent either, this is temporary. Temporary slash permanent, right? EMP shield's gonna sit roughly right here, so we can put in our cone nuts. Get that one in there. Set this guy up here for now to get started and see how he's gonna sit. And I don't know if I need more washers back there for spacers or not quite yet. Boom, there we go. Got the EMP shield mounted to the unistrut back here. Now I'm gonna work on the flexible conduit that's gonna kind of snake around and then into that opening hole right back there. It's a little tight back there, but that's what we're working with. All right, I did finally get it into position, off camera of course, because it took me a couple minutes, and I have to mount the EMP shield kind of going in a down position just like that. That's about as best as I can do for this short little run because it's too much of a bend trying to get it how I had it before. So this is where we're at right now, and I'm going to mount it basically right here. Boom, just like that. That's how it's going to rest for right now. So that's going to go up into that spot right back there, which pops out. I know it's a little harder to see. Going to be right back there. Bushing right here. Get that installed. Okay, that's on there. Now I need to get these cables routed over this direction. And these I'm not going to cut down. Like I said, I don't know if that's going to be its permanent position. So I am going to leave it long, but it's not like I would be able to cut off very much anyway. It'd be like an inch. Get a little smash. Okay, we're going to start with the ground wire first. So we'll pop him out. Boom, just like that. I do have a ferrule on here right now, which we're going to take off. And, oh yeah, that fits in there good. And then we're also going to shove in EMP protection as well. So we're going to get all of that in here. And I can see both in here right now, and they are basically equal with each other. Pop that in there. Okay, that's in there nice and tight. I'm going to give this a little tug. It is not coming out. So now we're going to do the exact same thing on the positive. Not to touch anything at all. Boom, there we go. Now, see if we can pull this one off. There we go. Everything shoved back in. This guy shoved in there. I know you can't see it very well on camera, but the copper wire from the EMP Shield is equal with the tinned copper from the battery. We're going to put that one in. Boom, there we go. That was pretty easy. And actually the little LED light is on down here because of course the two banks are paralleled together. Boom, there we go. The LED is on. Let me see if I can shade that a little bit better. Nice. Okay, so now I can step on that and spill everything. Come over here and turn this battery bank back on. And actually we can flip on the solar arrays. So only two are going to turn on first. Let's see here. Yep, there we go. A little harder to see on camera, but you can see two LEDs on that one and then two LEDs on the center one. This one is my ground mount, so I have to go outside to turn that one on, which I'll go outside and do right now. And boom, third one is on, and we can see both LEDs on that. If I turn off this light over here, it does create a nice little blue glow. Honestly, it probably would have looked better if I had all of those suppressors, you know, coming straight out the back. It would probably look a little bit cooler, you know, having a blue glow come around the bottom edge, but this actually looks pretty good. And actually, let me turn off this light too. There we go. Now you can see it. Awesome right here. All right, that was nice and easy. Now we're bringing in, I know you're not gonna be able to see it very well, but we're charging the battery at 7,000 watts right now. Oh, that's about 10,000 watts coming in right now because my house is drawing 3,000 watts right now as well. So nice. That's pretty much it. I'm going to clean this up and put the door back on, and then we will, oh, actually, you know what? We're not done quite yet. I forgot about the broadband ferrites right here. So technically, I think I should install two of these inside the inverter, one for the roof array on both ends, and then one on the ground mount array on both ends. So a total of 4. But I don't think I'm going to do that, at least for the inverter side that I know of, because all of my wires come through this one hole right here. So if I can fit all wires right in here, I'm just going to clip on the one right here, and then I'll go outside and clip one on the ground mount, and then we'll clip one on the roof array right before it comes in through the roof. All right, so if I can, I'm gonna see if I can fit all of these in here, and I'm gonna include the ground wire as well. I think I'll be able to, honestly. Just make sure it's loose. Yeah, I can. All right, there we go. I can actually fit one ferrite on every single wire coming from my solar arrays. So this is technically 3 different arrays. All right, next we'll go up onto the roof arrays and add one up there. Basically the same thing, just around all the wires before they penetrate into the roof. I just have to warn you, I still haven't put my little box up there for all the wires that go into the roof. Yeah, I just haven't had time to do it, so disregard how it goes into my roof, okay? And then the next one we'll do is we'll go over to the ground mount array. Anyway, enough yakking, let's go outside. All right, here is the ground mount array, kind of like combiner box. It's basically this array right here and this array right here. These two are in series. And then this one's all by itself. It's actually on the 6000 XP. And this is where we're gonna install the other ferrite ring. And there's actually another ground mount that's just laying on the ground. I'm gonna try to include those as well, if I can. So that is these 2 wires and these 2 right here. So I just have to figure out if I can actually get all of those wires together, because right here, these wires down here is where it goes into the house. So let me see if I can wrap these on here. And technically we don't have to do it in this box, we just have to put them on the solar panel wires and snap together. There we go, I actually got it on there. Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. All right, I'll get all these wires shoved back together and the cover back on, but that's really all we needed to do is put this ferrite ring on here. And then we have the roof arrays up here. These two right here are in parallel, and then this one is by itself. So this is array 1, this is array 2, and then the ground mount is array 3. And just like I mentioned, I still don't have my box that goes into the roof. I still have this pot covering everything up. So don't look at that. All we need to do is add our little ferrite ring. So pop that off. Yes, this is what I have up here. This is not good at all, but this is what we have. We just need to put our ferrite ring around this. And if I can't actually fit all wires in there, then I'm gonna grab another one. But we'll see what we can do real quick. If we can get all these in here or not. Okay, we cannot. Oh, I've got a spare one up here. Okay, so maybe I can get them all. I didn't need that other one. Okay, I can do it. I had a spare up here, I didn't really realize that. So that's all we need to do up here. And then I'll put my cover back on. That is a little ridiculous, I know. I'll get to it, I promise. Okay, that's all we needed to do up here. Again, don't look at my pot cover. I'll get that fixed as soon as I can. Alrighty, I think it's gonna wrap it up for installing all the Midnite Solar surge suppressors, covering all the charge controllers into the inverter, and for the EMP Shield for the battery bank. And I also forgot to mention at the very beginning of the video, they make these for all sorts of different solar arrays. Basically, you just need to figure out your maximum voltage of your solar array and go off of that. So if you have, you know, like a 250 volt charge controller, you would probably get the 300 volt surge suppressor. My arrays, I think they go up to 400 or 500 volts in the winter, and in the winter time, you know, your panels are going to overproduce in voltage, so you need to account for that. So I got the 600 volt surge suppressors for my system. They've got a couple different ones. You just basically pick the one that fits your system. Same thing for the EMP Shield for your battery banks. They have those for 12 volt, 24 volt, and 48 volt. Mine is obviously a 48 volt, so that's why I chose 48 volts. All right, the only thing I didn't really cover, I guess, would be the ferrite rings for the wires that come in from the grid. I'm just kind of running out of time, and I don't want to waste too much more of your time for this video, but basically you would just wrap these around your wires that come in from the grid, and that's basically it. If you wanted to be uber protected like I planned to be, I'm actually going to get some more of these. I'm going to put them on the wires that come in from the grid, and then I'm also going to put them on the wires that go to my inverter, because it's kind of a long run from my inverter to the grid boss. So I am going to put a set of these on the inverter and then back there by the grid boss. So I just kind of ran out of time for these. All right, for the next video, we will attempt to protect my internet by creating a air gap through these fiber optic cables right here, and then through these little boxes right here. One of these will technically be like the sacrificial lamb. This one right here, surge will basically hit this one if it manages to get this far, but it's going to have to go through the fiber optic cable into the other one, which we hope that it won't do. And then the other part of that is this little surge suppressor right here. We're going to connect this outside in the little box where your internet comes into your house. We'll set this out there in line, and then we'll run a ground to my ground rod outside. And then the next video after that, I've got one more EMP shield for my truck. Again, most people probably aren't going to go the extra step or extra mile for their vehicle, but I am going to do that because I bought one. All right, well, that's pretty much all I got. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you put those down below. If anybody's looking for any of the surge suppressing units that I got to protect your own equipment, I'll have all this stuff linked down below. And finally, if this video is helpful for anybody, make sure you like that smash button on your way out, because it does help, and I will see you on the next. Malcolm, come on. You want to go inside? You want to go inside, girlfriend? You got things to do? Okay,